All right, so let's get this party started. What we're going to be talking about tonight is a book that came out in 2012, I believe. At least I think that's what I was seeing as copyright dates on the first issue here. 2012, we're heading back to the Marvel Universe, and we're talking Legion. All right, now that's not the name of the comic. The name of the comic is actually X-Men Legacy, but we're specifically talking about Legion because right now, and I assume that for the rest of the series, he is the main character in this book. So to tell us why, you've already heard Ronnie Adams' voice. Go ahead and tell our listeners hi again, Ronnie Adams.
Hello.
All right, that's Ronnie Adams. And then we have Mark Radulich, the patriarch of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, and he's ready to tell us why in the hell we're talking about Legion.
A few months back, Fox aired the second season of the TV show adaptation of the comic Legion, and we're finally getting around to it this week. Jesse Starcher and I are going to do a TV party tonight for Legion Season 2, so we thought we would look at some of the comics starring the aforementioned Legion character.
So, Mark, have you ever read any of the Age of Apocalypse? And don't start singing again.
No, sir, I have not. I saw the movie.
Okay. Do you know what precipitated it? Did you by chance listen to the episode that me, Gavin, and Josh did?
I didn't care about your show till I was on it.
Ah, well, that it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. No, what happened is, you see, David, or Legion, is Charles Xavier's son.
Right.
And in the mid-'90s, Legion killed his father on accident and intended to actually kill Magneto. This set off a chain of events because he went back in time to do it. And it created the Age of Apocalypse. There go all the X books went off the stands, and in its place for I think close to four months, maybe I think it was about 4 months. In its place were these Age of Apocalypse titles. So that's where I first learned about Legion. Ronnie, you know much about Legion?
Mostly what you just said. That's I'm familiar with Age of Apocalypse and Legion being Professor X's son. I knew he was called Legion for a reason, because in the Bible, Legion, we are Legion. We are called Legion for we are many.
Mm-hmm.
But this book kind of really opened that up a little more of why he was called that. I don't remember. I never really realized why he was called that. In past books,
Gotcha.
He had the devil inside him.
Legion in the Bible. Can you give us an idea of what that? How does that? It's not like a person's possessed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a man in the Bible, and he was possessed by many demons.
Okay.
So that's why it said, "We are Legion, for we are many." I'm getting the stories mixed up, but
I was just shooting for the fact that this guy was possessed and he had a lot of demons inside of him.
Yeah, they were all fighting to get out.
Okay. Now,
causing trouble, made the man insane. As a man, was possessed by many demons. When they cast him out, when Jesus cast him out, he cast him into. If I'm telling it right.
The story sounds familiar. Yeah, he sends them into something. Yeah. I can't remember what.
And because it was all because they wanted nothing but death and destruction.
Okay.
They that's what they were there for. They were there to cause chaos, death, destruction, and they wanted. They said when Jesus cast them out, they said, "Don't just cast us out and put us back." And not put us back, but don't just cast us out. Cast us into those pigs. Over there, and
they were baking the next day.
He did, and the pigs ran off a cliff.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they caused the pigs to run off a cliff and die because they just wanted to cause death and destruction.
Breakfast on the run. Breakfast on the run.
You kind of put me. I know the story, but it kind of put me on the spot.
No, man.
I butchered it.
No, you're fine. I knew that it had its roots in the Bible.
Yeah.
Just like you said, just because of what his name is and what's going on inside this guy's head. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Legion is a character that is the son of Charles Xavier and is one of the, if not the most powerful mutant in the Marvel universe.
An Omega level mutant.
This guy he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. The problem is that he he suffers from multiple personality disorder. Mark, am I getting my terminology correct, or what's it called? Dissociative or something? Or what is it?
I believe it's actually schizophrenia, which, by the way, you want to know how not to get laid? Explain this character to somebody who doesn't read comics.
Thanks, Mark. Glad I'm married.
I would say explain any character to someone who doesn't read comics. Well, Superman is an alien. And
I was at work today, and we were just talking about like TV shows we've all been watching, and so my work wife, she was talking about watching Riverdale, and we were kind of going back. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, this weekend I got to go and binge watch Legion season 2. And they're like, what's Legion? I'm like, oh, well, he's a superhero, but he's schizophrenic, and you could just see the L forming on my forehead and them all glazing over with their eyes rolling in the back of their head.
Come on, it's a good show though, and
it is a good show.
We're going to be talking about that, but I could tell everybody right now that's listening to this podcast that if you're a fan of visual style in TV shows, this thing has it in spades. I mean, It is one of the most visually appealing shows I've ever seen.
This is quite the artsy show.
Yeah. But back to the comic, back to the nerds, keeping our... Yeah. This...
Green Lantern is a space cop.
So this character is very powerful, but he cannot handle the power that he has. And to kind of describe what's going on is in his head are all these personalities. Each personality has a power. Now, I don't think I understood that up until reading this comic. So that's where this comic at least does a little bit of service to the fans.
I was going to say, it took me a minute. It took me a minute to figure that out, that when he finally has control over the personality, he gets their powers, which physically doesn't seem possible, but it's a comic, so whatever. It took me a minute to figure that out.
Yeah, same here. I mean, when you start at the beginning of this comic, I didn't know where the hell he was. I thought he was on a different planet. So
after I got my nosebleed, I realized what was going on.
So let's talk about the writer here. The writer is a guy by the name of Simon Spurrier. And just heading over to his wiki, he's a British comics artist, and we've talked quite a few British comics artists on here, writer, British comics writer, wrote for 2000 AD. If you're a British writer, I think, and you're writing comics, you're in 2000 AD at some point. He also has some of these titles: Lobster, Random, Beck and Call, The Simping Detective, and Harry Kipling. None of which I've ever heard.
I've heard the name Harry Kipling.
I've heard of Rudyard.
I've never read anything.
I've heard Rudyard Kipling.
Well,
maybe that's it.
I'm not going to click on it. I don't think it's worth a click. Of course, he's wrote stories for Judge Dredd as well.
Everybody has written stories for Judge Dredd.
Yeah, if you're a British comic book writer, you probably had your hand in, especially if you've been involved in 2000 AD, you probably had your hand in Judge Dredd.
Did you say British comic book writer?
Yes, sir.
Watchmen.
Oh, jeez.
V for Vendetta.
No. That was another bit. So in recent years, he has broken into the American comic book industry, writing mainly for Marvel Comics. Okay, so that's who we got writing here. All right, now I'm going to do a brief synopsis. Everybody hold hands. We're going across the pronunciation bridge. I am going to
I thought we were going on a cocaine ride again.
I just wanted to know, what country are you originally from, Jesse?
Anyway, we are going to go into a brief synopsis on this book, X-Men Legacy, first 6 issues, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Now, Mark, you had the trade, right? Was this one of the ones you had in trade?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have, what do they call it, the exposition at the beginning between each issue, or was it just all crammed into one story? Because at the beginning of each issue, I had to really rely upon that to kind of give me an idea of what I just read the issue before.
Not really, no. It's, let's see, title page, credits.
I have the covers, and then that's it.
Yeah, the cover, and then we start the Cortex Complex. Okay.
So, yeah, if you got the trade, I think owning individual issues would have probably helped out a lot, because they do a little bit, that brief one page right at the beginning, okay, here's what's happened so far, and boom, we're into the story. I had to rely upon that a lot. So don't be surprised if some of the stuff I read you in the synopsis may have been something you may have missed, because I know you already told me ahead of time that this was kind of hard to follow, right?
Yeah.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Okay, let's just stop here real quick. This story was kind of challenging to summarize. My attempts at writing a synopsis twice and conveying it sensibly to Mark and Ronnie did not go so well. So as a post-edit treat, here's a very nutshell version of this story. David Haller, Legion, has found a temporary solace in the Himalayas with a friend who is helping him contain the multiple personalities in his head in a mental prison. When his father, Professor Xavier, dies, which I believe happened in the pages of X-Men vs. the Avengers, or AVX, the mental prison becomes a riot and David loses control, as each entity takes over Legion's psyche, going on a rampage through Asia. As David struggles to get his mind back in order, a chance meeting with a mutant that helps him escape police puts him on a path to rescue a brother and sister, Sajobo and Karasu, that have psychic powers from a Japanese gang. When the X-Men catch up to him, Legion resolves not to be captured and also to not allow the children to be taken from him, as he does not believe his father's school is the place for these kids to be brought up in. During a battle with the X-Men, Legion meets a psychic/seer by the name of Blindfold, who is put in a coma after an entity from David's mind strikes her down. The result of the battle sees the X-Men take the children while David escapes. It is revealed later that the mysterious mutant that aided him earlier is the once thought dead abusive brother of Blindfold, Luca, who hated her because she was a mutant. And he has put all these events into motion, that's one of his powers apparently, to take over the body of the young boy sibling, Shizobo. And now he is at the same school Blindfold is recovering in. Since he feels somewhat responsible for Blindfold being in a coma and learning about Luca's intent from the young boy's sister, Legion takes action to save Blindfold. A fight ensues, and as Luca, in Sajobo's body, tries to make the X-Men believe that Legion was there to kill Blindfold, Blindfold awakes and violently kills Luca, explaining to the X-Men what had happened. David is allowed to leave, but on his way out, Karasu makes him know that she blames David for what happened to her brother.
Now back to the show.
Mark Radulich.
Here's the thing. I couldn't tell half the time what was real and what was imagined, what was in his head, which is the problem I have with the show as well. I remember the producers of the show saying, we're purposely not telling a linear story. Terrific. You know, like, I'm willing to stay with it, but, and then this goes to the comic too, but I have a hard time deriving any kind of story out of this.
Yeah.
You know, I get that you're not trying to tell a linear story, that it's very artistic, and, you know, and when you have an unreliable narrator, that, you know, that presents its own element, its own elements of issues with what's going on. On the other hand, if I were to tell you the story of Green Eggs and Ham, but tell it to you out of order and sometimes in a different language and sometimes invoking images of pornography, you're not getting the story of Green Eggs and Ham. You're getting something entirely different.
I would say not.
You know, comparing this to the show, this is a lot more linear, I feel, than the show is. The comic anyway.
I would help you with that. I would agree with that.
Okay, the problem is that I went into this thinking just like you did. Is he imagining this? But this is 2012, and I think that the show may be affecting my interpretation of the book just a little too much. As soon as I figured out where reality was and what's in David's head is, I was doing a little bit better. What was your favorite part of this series, these first 6 issues?
Oh, God. I really struggled with this. I really struggled, like, following any kind of story in this. You know, I think what I got out of this... Let me say this. There's another character that's dealing with schizophrenia in the Marvel Universe, but they do a much better job of at least being able to construct a story around the illness, and that's Moon Knight. Mm-hmm. I read the first 2 from the Marvel Now series. I have the first 2 trades, and you do get a sense that he's struggling with reality. He's struggling with his perception of reality versus, you know, the illness in his mind. But you can still kind of follow what's happening in the book. That's where I think this book falls down for me, is that you get the same sense of struggle from David, but what you don't really get is a good story that deals with him and his illness. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, they try to tell a traditional, like, action-adventure story with an unreliable narrator who can't figure out who he is from one panel to the next. which made it a very hard read for me. More than that, like, I wasn't, after a while, I just wasn't interested anymore. I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to get from this story. I just kind of got to the end of it so that I would have said, so I could say I could have read it, but this is gonna be like, we've definitely picked a lot of books this year where I wish I had more time to read more comics. I would have stayed with the series. I would have continued reading past whatever volume we did on the show. This is one where this is gonna go up on my shelf and I'm never gonna look at it again.
I'm looking just to see when or how long David remained the main character of this series. I thought maybe it'd switch off to something else because, like I said, X-Men 300 would make me think that it turns into an X-Men book, or I should say X-Men Legacy 300. But up to issue 24, which that's a 2-year run for this book if it's coming out monthly. Up to issue 24, it looks like David was the main character of this book. And I'll tell you right now, just to kind of give you guys a brief glimpse into the future, the cover of 24 has Blindfold shaving David's head. So the last issue prior to 300 has him looking very much like his dad. Well, clearly Blindfold and, Legion become a couple, which they very much allude to in this book. Like, she shows up and she's like, I think I'm supposed to be your nemesis. So she sees something in the future, but she can't quite get the handle on it. And Legion, he has no idea what's going on now.
I think then she kisses him, right? She's like, I think I'm supposed to be your nemesis, then she lays a big kiss on him.
Yeah,
that's very typical of a girl, don't you think? Hi, I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Mwah.
I don't know what that's all about. But yeah,
Most of the women I've dated.
Yeah, see?
What? Who said that?
Ronnie, did you have any... I know you said it was hard for you to kind of stick with this book, but do you have any parts that you liked at all?
Why is it that, like, if we don't like a book, Jesse sounds like he's taking it personal, like he wrote it?
I feel like I need to do the podcast some justice and make some content out of it. Like, okay, what's the next question I can ask?
Jesse did write this, so watch your mouth.
No. I understand the need to do a good show. I totally get that. I've been in the same position.
Good's rather subjective, but continue.
But like right now, we're just talking about the book, and neither myself nor Ronnie were particularly enthusiastic about it after reading it. And it's like, and then I hear you're just like, oh, that makes me sad. You guys didn't enjoy this. It's like, dude, you didn't write it.
I think it's an interesting take on the character because we don't really have a whole lot out there on Legion.
Did you read Moon Knight at all?
No, I haven't. You talked a lot about that book and said you really enjoyed it.
Do me a favor.
At least the first part.
Before you decide how you feel about this book, put it aside. Give the first 5 issues of that Moon Knight the Moon Knight series a read, and you'll understand why I'm a little disappointed with this and why I think this lasts. Okay. All right.
The concept of each of his personalities having a different power was interesting. Was it laid out the best in the world? Not to me. This was very... The only word I can think is it was very messy.
Yeah.
But I did like the fact that he had to, I guess, for the lack of a better term, absorb that personality to access that power. Like, he kept carrying around that thing with the elephant snouts to have telepathy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But
was that in his head, or did he physically
that was
carry
in his
around?
head?
Yeah. See, I didn't get that at all.
See, I took it for granted that it was in his head because if it were supposed to be real, I would have probably thrown the book away.
No, I think what he's doing there, it's a representation of battling your demons, and he's showing you what's going on in David's head. All while this is all happening at the same time. He's got to try and figure out how to these entities down that are in his head, or they'll take over, and that's why Legion is a pretty interesting character because the David that we get here, he's a good guy. He's trying to be a good guy. The only problem is that there are all these things in his head that take over and make him the villain that the X-Men believe that he is.
Now, if you go to the Ultimate comic books, the Ultimate X-Men, David was nothing like that. David was evil.
I was going to say, like, my other problem with this book is the way that David's represented. It kind of goes to what Ronnie was just saying. I thought he was a little too jokey. Like, as somebody who deals with people who have mental illness, like, they're not this quippy.
Is he really? Or is it just that's how his power manifests itself?
I always got the impression that he was legitimately mentally ill, but it was compounded by the fact that he was also telepathic and he didn't really know how to control his powers, and so...
But according to this representation here, he's not telepathic. Like, he gets those from the things in his head, and that is what... I mean, again, we may be looking at that and having the show affect our interpretation of this book, because the show, he's clearly, he's got to try and shut these voices out. Well... And what's more on that is that, are these voices in his head, or are they the voices of other people from that?
I don't know,
show?
Randy Orton.
That's the second podcast that's come up on. Now,
I hear voices in my head that talk to me. That talk to me.
The other thing I think I would like to maybe point out that about these first 6 issues at least is, David trying to come to grips with number one, the insanity inside his head and how it's actually affected his relationship with his father, Charles Xavier, which I have not read too much that had interactions between Charles Xavier and his son. There's only been a couple stories that I've read where, and usually when Legion was portrayed, he was portrayed as a very overpowering potential villain, and throughout this series you see David's interpretation of his relationship with his father. Like, I think there was like a quick flashback in a couple panels where he was thinking about his dad. His dad's kind of like off to the side, and David's laying on this MRI. I don't know what the hell you call it. He's basically laying on this medical table. And his dad's just kind of looking off the side, and he says, "Maura, go ahead and it'd probably be best to sedate him." And at about that time, he looks down at his phone or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I have an appointment somewhere." So he feels very estranged from his father, but he still loves his dad. At least there's a couple points where he's trying to say that he loves him, but he's trying to resolve the fact that his father is fighting for this dream. And should he fight for it as well? And there's sometimes where he said, no, I'm not going to do it. And sometimes he's like, well, I understand where my dad's coming from.
Oh, Charlie wasn't the best dad.
No, he wasn't. I mean, if you've got a kid, I don't know, man. I mean, I know that it's been documented or at least it's been said in comics that Professor X tried. He tried his best, but it was like a constant battle to try and tame his son. Go ahead.
I want to read you some of these Goodread 1-star reviews.
Oh, boy.
Kit, really hard to follow or care. Legion is just really annoying to read. The X-Men themselves are all played for completely incompetent boobs to make him seem cooler rather than him being written better. Gross. Not following up. The art, however, is absolutely lovely. Amanda, what is up with Legion's Dragon Ball Z hair?
They actually address that in the book.
Yes, that's referenced in the book plenty of times.
Ian, incoherent, like all cosmic comics.
Cosmic?
Ashley Pierce. The art is messy.
Wait.
What?
No, that guy's... Would you call this cosmic, Mark?
No, I don't know where they got cosmic from.
Okay. All right.
Ashley Pierce. The art is messy. Most likely because Legion is actually a crazy mess himself. For me, it's just too much, and I can't focus on the story. See, I'm not crazy. Like other people.
Did the art take you out?
Here's what I was going to say about the art. It's not that the art was bad or anything. The art was fine. My problem is, let's think about the show for a second. When David's in real life, it looks like real life. It looks like the 60s, but it looks like real life. When David, when you're inside David's mind, the setting changes. It's colored differently. The direction of the shot is angled in certain ways. There's something about it that you can see distinctly that it's not real life. That doesn't happen in the comic. That's why I got confused, like when he was running around with the octopus. It was like, well, the setting at all didn't change. I have no idea if this is in his head or not.
Oh, so you were thinking like this was happening possibly before or after, but you didn't realize that this was happening all at the same time, and one was in his head and one was actual reality.
Right.
Okay. All right. Damn. Yeah. That would be a tough read, Dan.
Okay. So Sam Quixote writes, I hated this book. This is the worst Marvel Now title I've read so far, and the relaunch had its share of stinkers. It's not so much Legion I dislike, but Simon Spurrier's writing. He can't make me care about anybody in this book, and has no ability to fashion a compelling character out of Legion. That may be because Legion is a bad character to begin with. I'm not sure. This is my first time reading about him, but Spurrier in no way makes the case for why he should have his own series. He's crazy with multiple psychic powers. He wears only orange pajama bottoms and has troll hair. So what?
First off,
I have to disagree with that.
Okay, I'll let you go, Ron.
No. He is a very interesting character.
No, I don't disagree about. I agree with most of what he wrote there, but he's not an interesting character. That's all, and that's all in who handles him. I just want to read this one last part here. It's the same review. I couldn't tell you what the story of this book is, even after reading the book. Legion wanders about, fighting things, the end. Spurrier's story is completely unfocused, and as we don't know what the point of it all is, totally uninvolving. I also don't care that Xavier wasn't a good dad and sent his son away for years. Xavier was a very drab character himself, and the longer they keep up with his death, the better. Though it seems he's unfortunately due for another comeback soon, probably so he can die again.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
He's died a few times. Mark, I mean, one of the big things that I kind of left out of the synopsis, because as if you couldn't tell, I was struggling. But the very big reveal at the end of the 6th issue is that this demon that was running around in his head was Charles Xavier himself. At least that's what we're led to believe. Did you believe that this was Charles Xavier when you read it there, Mark?
I didn't realize that there was a demon that was Charles Xavier.
There's this little imp that has like maybe 2 or 3 spots in the book. His biggest one being when Blindfold was in there trying to talk to Legion, and then all of a sudden this thing comes out and strikes her and puts her in a coma. After she gets struck, she falls down. She's in a coma after that. You remember her getting hit? Okay.
All right, I want to read another one. I found Simon Spurrier's David Haller a bit fickle and peckish, and never really got into him. I know it's supposed to be a change in perspective, but this David Haller is no way near as brilliant or devious as Mike Carey's David Haller in Lost Legions. For me, the volume's only saving grace was Blindfold. Way too step for her, knifing Luca like that. Bravo.
Yeah, she did, like, just out of nowhere, just cut this dude in half. I wasn't expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Lost Legions. What is that?
Probably the story we should have read.
Yeah. No, I think that Legion's an interesting character. I think he's a great character. I don't think he was used very well in this story, and I agree with a lot of the criticisms that I just read off of Goodreads, that like the story was kind of all over the place and just hard to follow, and I thought it was sort of a wasted opportunity for such a compelling character.
Okay. All right, Ronnie Adams, are you itching to go get issues 7 through 10 or 11, 12?
No.
All right. Well, that's going to close up our muddled through discussion of X-Men Legacy 1 through 6. Will we be back? If there's a season 3, we're going to talk about David in some shape, but I don't think
We're going to read something else.
Yeah. I would love to read Legion Quest, which I think... I don't think I covered that fully on the previous Age of Apocalypse show. So that would be a fun one, Mark.
Read the Ultimate line where he's a villain.
I'm down. I'm down with it. We'll figure something out, because I'm sure Legion will be back for, season 3, right?
Hasn't been renewed yet, but I'm sure it will.
Okay. All right, let's get out of here. This has been a travesty. Let's do some plugs.
I feel bad now. Like, I picked this book, and just like I tried to make a show out of this.
Mark.
Well, it's again, I feel bad for Jesse. It's like I'm trying to make a show out of this, and you guys are just shitting on everything. It's like, well,
the problem
I didn't like it.
Here's the thing. Our podcast is getting books, whether we know they're going to be good or not, reading them and doing our best to kind of tell you if they're any good. As you can tell by tonight, this wasn't the greatest story. All right, let's get out of here. Ronnie Adams, let's hear some plugs, bro.
I do have a show. I promise I do. And it is called the Screen Boy Podcast. Mark, we did a show recently, right here on the network. What did we do?
We did the firing of James Gunn by Disney, or the day Laughter died.
The day Laughter died. So we did a show that's exclusive right here on the network. Like Mark said, it was called The Day Laughter Died. It was about the firing of one Sir James Gunn. About he tweeted some stupid stuff back in the day, and got fired for it. So we talk about whether he should stay fired, but rumor has it that he's not staying fired. But anyway, we also have a couple other exclusives that are here on the network. We also have a bunch of older shows that are on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and what's the one that we just recently submitted to?
Spotify, bro.
Spotify. Gosh, it's been a long day, and I apologize. So
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
It's been 12 songs since we started this podcast.
Yeah, very true. So we're on Spotify as well. So go and give us a like, a subscribe. We're on all sorts, all of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram.
The what?
Instagram.
What was that?
That was my impersonation of you on the podcast that just aired today.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did do that. And Twitter. So, just look up Screaming Boy Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and then look up Screaming Boy PR on Twitter. Give us a subscribe, a like, follow us, whatever is, float your boat on that. And we have plans on, having the show back up and running very, very, very soon. I know I keep saying that, but this is a reality now. So it should be not too much longer before we have brand new episodes up, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very good. Mark Radulich, tell us all about it.
The Screaming Boy Podcast is a podcast hosted by Ronnie Adams.
Wait a second.
You said tell us all about it. And that
plug your stuff.
That's not what he said, sir. That's not what he said. He said tell us about it.
I said tell us all about it.
Okay.
Don't act like that's weird. Don't act like that weirds you out.
This week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, you'll find a podcast hosted by Jesse Starcher called the Source Material Podcast, in which we discussed Zatanna. The panel consisted of Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy Podcast, Alexis Haina of Honeysuckle Rose Creation, and myself, who's obsessed with pixie breasts.
Yeah, it does go into a lengthy conversation about that.
Do you like pixie tits? I like pixie tits. We discussed it at length. So tune into that show to hear all about pixie tits. Which is the name of my new death metal band, by the way. We also discussed on Damn You Hollywood. We did our summer wrap-up show. We looked at where all the summer movies stand right now, who's in the number 1 spot, who's in the number 10, who's making money, who failed to make money solo. So go ahead and check that out. The Metal Hammer of Doom reviewed OTEP Cult 45, 2 words, militant lesbian, me too. Hashtag. And then finally, we ended the week with another Genji Cohen series. This time, not just Season 1, not just Season 2, not just Season 3, but all 8 seasons of Weeds, as discussed by myself and the other resident Genji Cohen expert, Sean Comer. On FX, there was a show, as we mentioned before, based on a comic book property that we just discussed called Legion. It's in its 2nd season now. It's actually concluded. We're going to talk about it on a TV party tonight, myself and Jesse Starcher. That's Legion Season 2. We hope you'll join us. And finally, on the Metal Hammer of Doom...
It's like he needs a mustache in his van.
We put Alice in Chains. We review Alice in Chains, Rainier Fog. We hope you'll enjoy that show on the Metal Hammer of Doom as we look back at all the Metal Hammer of Doom extras featuring Alice in Chains videos, like Wood and Rooster and Heaven Beside You and other ones.
All right.
When you do plugs like that, I feel like I need an adult.
Scary.
Coming up in the month of September.
Oh, dear God.
I'm done.
Starting to feel unclean.
That brings this episode of Source Material to a close. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to give that Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts we have to offer. We are at home on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and recently we have hit the air on Spotify. Find your favorite podcast platform and type in RADULICH to subscribe for some great content. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word. And as always, we appreciate any feedback and look forward to entertaining you again soon.
Turn the living room light off.
I like that. Turn the living room light. Do you sound like Luke? I am your father.
No, I don't. And thank you for being concerned for my well-being.
Tell us about how you're going to be turning to the dark side again there, Ronnie.
You're both dicks.
Or David
The
Holler.
dawning of the age of apocalypse. The age of apocalypse. Apocalypse.
That
One
works so
show.
well.
Apocalypse.
Is one show too much to ask to get through without you breaking into song?
And the Zatanna
Save
show.
your breath. Save your breath. I'm editing all this out. David Holler.
Holla!
This character.
You hear me? All right, you know what? I'm an asshole. Tell me to shut up, Jesse. Tell me to shut the fuck up.
I don't feel good, guys. Can we hurry through it? Shtick, 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 shtick.
I'm just wild about Harry, and he's just wild about me. Oh, I'm just sorry. Tell me to shut up, Jesse. Take control.
David Holler.
If you hear me.
Well, I can tell I won't be
Shtick,
saying
shtick,
his.
shtick, shtick.
I will not be saying his last name for the rest of the podcast. The devil inside. The devil inside.
What did you just tell Mark?
Every single one of us.
What did you just tell Mark?
And blindfolds in the back, shaving his head off. Not shaving his head off.
I'm going to say that would be much more interesting than what we got.
And there are
Voices in my head. These are the voices in my head.
One show.
Girlfriend in a coma, I know
He said
it's
save the
serious. Ooh, girlfriend in a
Save it.
coma, I know.
Stick, stick, stick.